Welcome back to the channel. If you watched the last video, we dynoed it with the modified kegger, fully ported and runner shortened just a little bit. And let's see, it's made 285 and 329 foot-pounds of torque. I'm just going off memory here. That was on a full heat pass. And anyone that's been watching those, we've been doing those, it's 90 degrees out, and that's full temperature passes. Now, the Glory Pass, we let it get down to the intake air temp was 120 and about 150 coolant temp, and then fired it up and hit it, which might represent what you do with the drag strip. It definitely represents what most people do on the dyno. The sheet they tell you they made this much power, this is what it does. That's usually what they do because it can be pretty drastic. I've seen 2 bags of ice on a Pro Charged charger with a Hemi. A bag of ice on each side is 40 horsepower. On the dyno. Let it cool down a little bit, leave the ice on there, make around 40 horsepower. So intake air temp definitely matters. Ambient air temperature matters. So the power it made on the dyno, it was at 90 degrees. But I think the headers are holding it back. Because these were on it when I got the truck. They're just cheap ass eBay headers. Supposed to be 1.5 inches, and they're close. I would think 1.5 inches inside diameter would be a little more appropriate, really 1 5/8 inches. But these are 1.5 inches outer, and then I measured it with a set of calipers. They're really more like 1 4/50 outer, so it's almost like an 1 3/8 header. Now, anyone with a Dakota, if you've got a Ram, you can buy pacesetter 1 5/8 inches. Actually, I think they advertise 1 3/4 now. These I think were advertised 1 5/8 inches. These were on my Ram, but that thing's been apart forever. That's what I was building the 440 for. Well, I'm not going to be playing with this anytime soon. I was looking at how to build them, because you can buy them, and they're like, you can get mid-lengths, they're like $800, and you got to wait 3 months. I think it was from Spintech. Nobody else makes them. The Borla, Summit, all the other ones, it's the same damn thing. They're just knockoffs of each other, so you're not gaining anything. But I've got these, because I was going to make them from scratch. That was going to be a real pain in the ass. But I've got these. I'm going to see. I know they won't fit. I've tried them before. They were hitting a little bit, and I thought, well, maybe I want to keep these, put my other Ram back together. But these are $200 $300 headers. So I'm going to see if I can cut them up and modify them, if they'll fit in a Dakota. And if they do, that's a couple $100 and some welding time. You'll have to make your own Y pipe. If you get the Spintech set, you can buy their Y pipe or their X pipe. You can bolt it in. If you're not capable of doing that type thing, you can spend more money and just bolt their stuff in. But I can, so I will. And I really want to see what it does on the dyno. I'm hoping it picks up a lot. I really think those are choking them off, because it's making decent power now. But my other Ram made 255, and it was just shaved blocks, shaved heads, a decent valve job, stock cam, stock valve train, stock everything. It made the same power with the stock manifolds as it did with these headers, but it was also absolutely untuned, and it was definitely lean. But either way, I'm going to try to cut those up and get them on this truck so we can dyno it again. So let's get after it. And I got it jacked up. I got the old header off, and this is the Ram header, the pacesetter. Not quite in. It hits the control arm hard right there. So I'm going to have to cut that tube off, but I think if I cut the tube off and remake this one tube to sit right here, I think it would work. It almost looks like the collector's even going to work. The collector's right there, but the header still has to drop down about 1.5 inches. And it's also going to get a little closer to the trans when it does that. So to get this side to fit, I may just have to make one tube. Now, it's impossible to weld that tube in right here, so I would have to remake the whole tube, cut it out of the flange, cut the collector, so I can re-weld it in the collector. Fits besides that one tube. We're in. We've got clearance on everything. A little tight right there, but so was the shorty. We'll see what our collector looks like now that it's actually bolted to the head. is fine. That's frickin' sweet. So now I've gone from having to make an entire header to having to make one tube. I can dent this up to get a little more clearance, but it was clearing on with the other headers, so it's probably fine. Hell, the control arm probably clearance that tube for us. But I just got to make one tube. Cut the collector back apart because you can't get in there to weld it. And that's going to be easy. That's not going to be bad. The other side's got steering shaft and other crap. It's probably going to be the hard one. But the engine's offset to this side, so it may actually be a little better. But I'm going to get the other side apart and we'll look at that. Alright, I got this side started. I had to pull the starter off just to get it this far in. Now, right now it's hitting this tube on the steering shaft. Right there. I'm not entirely sure if I cut this one tube off if it'll actually make it, if this tube will make it. But we won't know until we try, because it's still got to come down. It's going to come back, which will make it further away from this one. But as it comes down, it's also going to get closer. So I guess we'll start by chopping this one. Alright, this side's on. I had to cut that one tube off. With that one tube off, it clears. But this boot right here, that's not going to live any longer. It's not on the shaft, but it's touching that boot. It's also touching the control arm mount down there, but not by a lot. Touching right there, just a little bit. It looks happy everywhere else. This little bit there, I'll probably just ding the header. I'd probably just ding the header. It's not even really pressing on it. There is a tiny gap actually, but it's really, really close. So, it's really not too bad. So I've got a fabricated tube for this side. This side's going to be easier than that side. But one tube. I think I can squeeze the tube right through there. Right through that gap. Just keep it real tight. It might look a little funky, but it can do it. Spintech used to make long tube headers. They were like $1,300, I think, for the base set. And you had to use port plates and some other crap. Now they were 1 3/4. This is really close to 1 3/4. If I can find my tape measure, we'll measure that cut pipe. Couldn't find a tape measure. Found calipers, but they're dead. But the outer on these is about 1/700. So 50 thousandths under 1 3/4. Plus they're rusty. I doubt they rusted enough to lose any diameter. That probably means that the inside's probably 1 5/8. I cut this one at an angle, so that'd be hard to check. That one's cut fairly straight. Now this is in a bend. About 1/600. Yeah, so 1 3/4 outer, pretty much. So you could get these for a couple $100 if you're capable of doing the work and save yourself a lot of money. On top of, it's 2021, you can't buy those headers from them anymore. Nobody makes long tubes for a Dakota RT or a regular Dakota. It's unobtainium. You got to make it yourself. So I think this is going to be the cheapest route, and we'll dyno it and see how much it's worth. But I'm going to call it a night. Get cleaned up and start again in the morning. Well, I got these all the tube cut off and I got the collector cut off. I didn't record any of that crap. If you try to repeat this, you're just going to have to go at it slowly. I sliced the collector into 4 pieces and then ground through the welds until they were thin so that it wouldn't bust through any tubes. I didn't even remove the cap at the end. So those are ready for me to build a new tube, and I've got my assortment of 1 3/4, and I measured, this is advertised as 1 3/4, and it measures the same, the outer diameter. So those are 1 3/4 headers, at least to standard. I'm not going to record a lot of this either. I'm just going to have to take a bunch of time and figure out which bend to use where to make it do what I need. I'll kind of clip in here and there, but I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly how to do this. You're going to have to... Those 3 tubes on each header are going to stay. I haven't touched them at all. I'm not going to. I've just got to make these 2 new tubes here. So if you try to duplicate this, you're just going to have to figure some of this stuff out on your own. But I'm going to get to it. I got to start fitting. I don't know exactly where I left off, but this is the driver's side header. I got that tube pretty far moved in. I could have done a little better job and kicked it up and around, but this worked. I had to still knock it a little bit to get the steering shaft going right through here, but it's going to work when it was compared to that crap. So I'm going to get that thing on. We're going to hear it run, and then I've got some exhaust hiding under there off the ram, or off my old ram. Hopefully I can make it fit or chop it up to fit, because we're dynoing again tomorrow. They're both in there. It barely clears, but my engine's leaned back a little bit because I think the transmission, I mangled the cross member at one time. I think the mount's still a little mangled. I noticed everyone else seems to be able to put 14-inch filters, and I can't, because if I try, it hits the firewall. So I'm going to space the transmission up a bit so it's not so far leaned back, which will give me a little more room on this side and a little more room on that side. And surprisingly, these things are easier to put in than those cheap shorties. They actually fit better. It's easier to get a wrench on everything. So we'll find out what they do tomorrow. I'm going to get everything hooked up. We'll see what it sounds like open header. And then that's going to be the end of the video, and I'm going to start making exhaust for it, because I got to hustle so we can dyno tomorrow. Well, that's the end of this video. We'll see you tomorrow when we dyno it.